You done now?
And she joins me right now. You might know her from the Group Text podcast. She's a producer, actress, and a New York Times best-selling author. The latest book are Lies My Mother Told Me. She joins us right now, the incomparable Miss Melissa Rivers. Melissa, how are we doing?
Incomparable.
No one can compare to you. Did you hear everything that I read off? How many people can do that? How many people can be a New York Times bestseller?
Probably a lot.
Well, I haven't
but
done it
thank
yet.
you. That made me. I think it makes me sound much more important and exciting than I am.
I think that you are, without a doubt, one of the people who I've looked forward to the most talking. I know you're a sports fan. I want to talk to you about that. Obviously, people know you the world around for everything that you've done. The book came out a few months ago, but I want to start with the podcast if we can, because
Please.
I just binged your podcast. I've listened to I don't know how many episodes. You had most recently a good friend of mine, Tommy Avalone, on talking about the Barney documentary, which is fascinating.
That's such a cool doc.
Who knew?
That is such a cool documentary.
Who knew all the crazy stuff about Barney? Like, I would have never understood without Tommy and his documentary. I mean, all the Barney bashing and the things the family went through. There was so much drama in Barney the dinosaur.
I know. Who knew?
It was wild. But I want to ask about the podcast. So I obviously know why you do a podcast, because you want to talk to people. You're a curious person. You're a great conversationalist in general, as we can already tell in the opening minutes of this conversation. But I want to know the group text podcast. Why did you call it that? Like, where did the inspiration for the name come through, and why do you feel like that was an apropos title for the podcast?
Because I am on a bunch of group texts, and they're all different kinds of groups of my friends, and they're all talking about different things. And I took a lot of my sort of inspiration from things we were talking about. So it's sort of a tip of a hat to all my friends. People always think there's some deep, dark, crazy, super interesting story, but there's not. Other than I have like my mom friends, I have my college friends, I have my, neighborhood friends, I have, the sports parents group text. And honestly, we're always all talking about different things. So I'm like, this is a good window into my brain a little bit. So I'm like, that seems like, it opens it up. I can kind of talk about and to anyone I find interesting.
And out of the group text that you just listed there, you have several that you're a part of. Like, sometimes the group texts are great. Like I have several that I'm a part of too. And there are certain ones that I look forward to, and there are certain ones that I definitely mute and I only check in with every so often. Do you have an annoying group text that you're a part of that you can't leave?
100%. I will. Well, we have one that anytime someone tries to leave, we automatically add them back in. We just keep adding people, which cracks me up. Like, nobody gets to leave ever. So that just makes me laugh. Do I have someone? Yeah, I woke up to one yesterday morning that from the time I went to bed to the time I got up, there were 23 parts of the conversation happening. I'm like, how could I have 23 doing? Oh shoot, I pushed that by accident. Bye. Okay, sorry. I was trying to turn something off. Someone was trying to FaceTime me. I'm like, no, bad timing. By the way, there you go. But yeah, I went to bed at like 10:30, 11, and I woke up at around 7, and there were 23.
Oh my goodness.
I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh my God, like what happened? Who's trying to reach me that there's 23, the little bubble had 23 in it. And I'm like, oh God, it's all only one group. Everyone having to go, you're right. Thumbs up. No way. LOL. I'm like, okay, we all don't have to chime in.
See, I'm probably like the worst person to be in a group chain, because I'm one of those people who I read the message, I register it, and then I say, okay, I need to reply to that, and I completely forget about it. Are you a good texter backer? Are you pretty good on top of it?
Depends. Depends. The thing that you have to make sure, if you're a person like us that sometimes does, sometimes doesn't, does the, oh, I'll get back to it later. You have to make sure that read or read notification is off.
Oh, yeah. You can't let them know.
Otherwise, people know that you read it and didn't respond.
I know, which is probably like in today's age, one of the worst things you can do is leave somebody on red. Like, I mean, that's what they say. Oh, they left you on red or he left you on red. It's just, it doesn't send a good message to everyone, quite literally.
No, it doesn't. It's just poor form.
Poor form, bad form. You've had a lot of conversations, Olympic gold medalists, documentarians that we've talked about before. Is there one that stands out to you as when you had that interaction, you're like, wow, I am so glad that I got to talk to this person?
Chelsea Handler.
Oh, yeah. And why?
Because it was a long-standing, not good relationship between her and my mom and me. Mm-hmm. And it got settled. And I thought that was amazing. And it got settled. And I found out that I really liked her. And in the interview, I even say the hardest part for me right now is she and my mother would have been friends. They would have gotten along great and would have really liked each other. So there was sort of something part for me of that one was it made me a little wistful and sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what's great about the podcast, the format, because you can have these long conversations.
Thank you for not calling it an art form.
I almost did, but I was going to say format and art form was coming out. I don't know why.
But it's not. I'm so glad that you stopped yourself.
Yeah, I know. Something in my brain just said, whoa, let's not cross that line. Let's not kid ourselves here.
That was exactly. Let's keep that low bar low.
Yes. So yeah, I definitely agree. Look, I know that you're a sports fan. You play tennis. Is this right? Are you a great tennis player or what? Is this a talent we don't know about?
I play a lot of tennis, then I've switched to paddle tennis, and now I'm doing that whole pickleball thing.
What is up with the pickleball? Everybody loves it.
Completely addicted to it.
Everybody loves pickleball.
It's so fun.
I don't understand. Like I understand any game or sport that we play and it's fun. That's why we do it. But I don't understand the craze on pickleball. Do you find it to be more challenging than tennis, or is it quicker? Is it more intense? Like what's the attraction there? It's
all of that and none of that. It's if you're into like racket sports, like I play tennis, I play paddle tennis, I now play pickleball. So it's all very much the same. The thing I think the reason it's such a huge craze is anyone at any age can play, and it is not an expensive thing to get into. So you can see grandparents playing with their grandkids. You can go on vacation and see families playing together. And then as you get more into it, there are more competitive levels. And if you watch any of the videos, they're crazy. And, these people, their hands are so fast. And there's a ton of strategy. There's a ton of skill if you want to play at that level. But if you don't want to play at that level, you can still have fun and actually play a game and not just like chase the ball when it flies out. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of the appeal.
I can see that. I see that they're doing like professional pickleballing now, and they're really taking it to the next level. Next thing you know, people are going to be calling it an art form, I think is where we're going to go.
Right. No. But that's the annoying thing is I was like, I said to my husband, I'm like, I want to put together a group and buy a team. And in between the amount of time that I thought, ooh, that'd be fun, and actually like researching it and figuring it out, already completely priced out of the market, even with everyone I had who wanted to do it. And apparently there's 60 groups vying for teams. So that ship sailed.
We'll see where
so much for my dreams of being a franchise owner of some sort of professional sport.
Well, you know what? We'll see where it goes. I think it's a fun sport. I mean, I haven't played it yet, but I have my eye on it, and I think that you may have convinced me that we're going to go from having my eye on it to dipping my toe into the pickleball pool, if you will. And
it's so fun. And of course now, because why should I let anything just be fun? the club that I play at is now starting a league. So now I'm going to play in the league. So I'm trying to find out what my rating is. I mean, I go like stupid. And then I'm also a really big skier. So it's the same thing. Even at like an idiot, I still run the NASCAR gates when I can. And if I don't come home with like a bronze, I'm all pissed off for the day. I'm not good at just, there's very few things sports I can do and just be like, oh, this is fun. Like I'm that crazy person.
Well, I want to ask you about tennis because it's been a big debate. Last several weeks, months, years, even. Serena Williams, one of the greats of all time. But there's this debate about, is she the greatest or is she the greatest female player? And there's like this designation between the two. Some people say, oh no, she couldn't compete with the guys. Even herself, she said that. I just kind of wanted to get your take on it. Do you think that we need to preface Serena by saying greatest female player of all time, or can we just say one of the greatest players of all time?
I think we just say one of the greatest players of all times. I mean, she's seriously, like, look at her record, man or woman. It is beyond anything. It's crazy. And I think you don't have to say greatest woman or greatest man. I think you just stay with one of the greatest of all times. And I think all the great men would say the same.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Federer and Nadal, all those guys would say absolutely one of the greatest of all times. McEnroe, all of them down the line would say that and would not differentiate between greatest woman or greatest man.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. As far as athletes go, who you can tell a lot about a person by if I say, who's your favorite athlete? Like, who do you like to watch the most? If I were to ask you this question, is there a particular sport you like to watch the most? And two, do you have a favorite athlete?
That is a very loaded question depending on the season. I love watching football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a football junkie. Half the time I don't know what to do with myself and what to watch on Saturdays and Sundays after the Super Bowl till preseason. And I'm in a fantasy league. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut about my favorite because I don't want to open up a huge can of worms, but let's just say that I would lie on the ground and sob hysterically if I was in the same room with Peyton Manning, which, by the way, I did humiliate myself not once but twice when I met him.
How so? How'd you humiliate yourself? We got to know the story. Give us the deets.
We were at the Indianapolis 500, like the whole celebrity part of it. And I was introduced to him, and the best I could muster up was, when I play Madden, I like to pretend I'm you. And then the next day, tried to explain that I was trying to be funny, repeated it, and doubled down on myself.
Wow.
So
and how did he receive this
said,
news, though? Like, how did he receive it? Was he like, oh, that's cool, Melissa, thank you for that? Or
and called security.
As one would do.
I'm like, I'm you when I would play Madden with my son. I'm you. Okay, you're an idiot. That was incredibly humiliating.
I could see that. But you know what? If you had the ability, you could, if you ever do a book similar to your most recent one, Lies My Mother Told Me, where you kind of, they're truisms, but they're very embellished. We can rewrite the Peyton Manning story, and you can actually say maybe he did call security, or I don't know, something better happens.
I think he probably would if I hadn't run away so fast.
I love the concept of your latest book. It's, again, Lies My Mother Told Me. Where did the idea though come up for this? Because from what I understand, they happened-ish, I guess is the best way to put it, right? Like, these things happened-ish.
Very, very, very loosely.
Right. So where did the concept of this come up?
When my mom died, and then sort of the world all went to hell in a handbag, and all the craziness politically starting 2016 and all that, everybody kept asking me, what would your mother be saying? And that's been a constant theme for the last however many years. And with my writing partner and I, we were sort of figuring out what we wanted to do next. And I'm like, well, let's do an op-ed or an article for someone about what would my mother be saying now. And as we got more and more into it, we're like, ooh, this is funny. Let's do the history of the world according to, as if my mother was telling it. And then, so we were working diligently on that, and we got stuck on Elba with Napoleon and there not being a Starbucks, and could not work our way out of it. And this, everyone thinks I'm joking, though. Like, this is the truth. And then we were like, well, let's go back and look at what we have so far. And we realized that the through line was all her telling lies. And then we sort of went into, ooh, this would be funny, just a whole series of lies. So then it became Lies My Mother Told Me.
It's such a fun idea. And again, your mother, obviously the iconic Joan Rivers, whom I loved and I think everybody loves and continues to love. You say the lies that your mother told you. What's the best advice your mother told you, though? Because this is a woman who, for people, I guess maybe now, you can't appreciate as much what Joan Rivers did in so many different ways, whether it be her appearances on the late night shows. She was, I don't know if your mom would like to be called a feminist icon, just knowing how she is, but she kind of is, right? Wasn't she a trailblazer for women?
She was. We always refer to her as the accidental feminist.
The accidental feminist.
She had no real thought about it, no real intention about it, no real, I am a feminist. She sort of was one by accident. So that's sort of how we always look at it.
Well, is there one line of hers that sticks in your mind as an advice that your mother may have given you that you still think about every so often?
Absolutely, and it was also when my father was alive. It was sort of our family motto, and it's a bastardized version of a very famous Winston Churchill quote, which is, "When you find yourself in hell, keep walking." Mm. So
that's a good one.
Or keep going. Yep.
I like that. I like that for sure. Although you might not think so, because of the sports thing, but I love Fashion Police. I watch it all the time. Thought it was such a great show. I wish it was still going. I know you produced it, and I just kind of wanted to ask, with your mother being the talent on the show, you being the producer and the showrunner, was it hard to produce your mother? Like, was that a hard thing for you to do because the dynamic that was there and your mother being who she was?
Is this a rhetorical question?
Well,
just curious.
Well, no, I mean, look, obviously, it's difficult.
Of course, there were days that it was amazing, and there were days that it was incredibly difficult, and there were days that it was fun, and there were days that it was complicated, and there were days where I wanted to wring her neck, and there were days she wanted to wring my neck. That being said, we worked really well together. We both knew each other's paces. I knew how to protect her. I knew what to fight with her about. I knew what to not fight with her about. I knew, but here's the thing. She also knew how to push my buttons. And I used to get so mad because I would be out of the room or off the set for a minute and going and dealing with something else. And I would walk back in and she would start something and I would just lose it. And she would start to laugh and the audience would start to laugh. I'm like, what? And she's like, oh, I told them, watch, let me show you how to get her crazy. So that wasn't so fair either. But, it's like any relationship. It's not, always unicorns and rainbows. But did we work well together? Yes. Did we understand each other's timing? Yes. Did we have a good, partnership? Absolutely.
I have time for about two more questions for you. So let me just ask this because I do want to make mention of it. I had Jimmy Fallon on the show a few weeks ago, and Jimmy and I were talking, and one of the things that I brought up was on his first Tonight Show, he had this bit where he said, oh, if I had $20, I bet $20 with a friend of mine that I would never be, they thought I would never be the host of the Tonight Show. And then he had this rotating cast of characters who came out and gave him $20. Your mother was one of them. And for me...
Oh, and so was And so was like De Niro. I mean, it was such a cool thing that they had like every major celebrity come out and put $20 in a jar.
It was a great bit. It was a great way to start the first episode. But I asked him specifically about your mother because of the history with her on the Tonight Show, and I don't really want to get into that. But I just want to ask: do you remember what she said after that appearance? Did it really mean a whole lot to her that Jimmy reached out?
It meant the world to her. It meant the world to her, and she adored Jimmy. It meant the world to her.
Yeah, it was just a special moment. And my last thing for you, Melissa, again, the Group Text podcast, you can get the new book. You can get at wherever books are sold, Lies My Mother Told Me. World Series is coming up. I don't know how big we are into baseball, but do you have a selection for us? Should we put our money on the Astros like I'm going with? Do you like the Phillies? What do we think of this whole situation? Or do we care?
Oh, the Phillies.
The Phillies? Why?
Phillies.
Why'd you just say it like that, so cavalierly?
So quickly? First of all, I'm also a huge Eagles fan, so fly birds fly.
Okay.
Let's just go with that. My cousins were raised just outside of Philadelphia. I went to Penn, and when I was growing up, we did not have a great football situation going on in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little bit like being in the foster system. I was housed by the Eagles, so to speak, metaphorically, of course. And I am a diehard Eagles fan, as painful as that usually is.
Most of the time for you. Most of the time. There's been a few shining moments.
It usually is. So I'm like loving life right now. And I'm putting all my money on the Philadelphia sports teams right now for baseball and football.
Okay, we'll go with it. We'll see what happens. But again, Lies My Mother Told Me.
How could you pick Houston?
That's where I'm from. How can I not?
Okay, that doesn't count. I have an actual reason.
Well, I'm from that. The team's great. They haven't lost in the postseason. You know, I know the whole thing happened a few years ago, but we're over that. You know what? We're over that. We're on to bigger.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that small thing called cheating.
You know what? You borrow from the good and you steal from the great, right? And that's all that happens. That's all that happened. It didn't matter.
Oh, there's so many things I could say right now that I'm gonna just shut my mouth thinking about Deflategate.
Yeah, well, it's neither here nor there, Melissa. But again, the Group Text podcast is great. I suggest everyone go out and subscribe to it, follow it. It's not an art form, but it's a format that we like. Lies My Mother Told Me, Tall Tales from a Short Woman is out now. Melissa Rivers, thank you. And MelissaRivers.com is where we can get more information. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much.